Welcome again to the Gallo Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm Richard Cross in for Paul on this Tuesday morning. Thanks for being with us as we broadcast live from the Sally Kate Winters Family Services headquarters in West Point, Mississippi. It is time for us to go to the phone this morning and visit with the Attorney General for the state of Mississippi, Lynn Fitch, who is kind enough to spend a few minutes with us. Attorney General, I appreciate a few minutes of your time. I have a non-serious question for you, though, as we get started. Some titles are easy, right? It's easy to call somebody President something or Mr. something or Dr. something. Do you go throughout the day with people calling you General all day?
Hey, good morning, Richard.
Good morning to you.
Thanks for having me on this morning. I'll tell you, that is common practice for the general, is with my colleagues. So I've always been, I guess, a respectful title. You know, all the generals that I know, the one I worked for, certainly were referred to general. But
very cool. Very cool. We do appreciate a little bit of your time this morning. April is Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. We're at Sally Kate Winters Family Services this morning and trying to bring some attention to the great work that is happening here. I am curious because I know so much of this comes across your desk as you look at this issue, which we wish wasn't an issue, but there's absolutely no avoiding it. Where do we start in this conversation about the role of the Attorney General's office and how this has been on your plate?
Well, thank you so much again, Richard, for doing this, for having the conversation, for being there at the Sally Kate Winters facility, because it's just such an important, very hard topic, but we need to have it because our children's lives are at risk. So I'm grateful for the outreach and showcasing the important need for all of us to step up. Unfortunately, you know, just pulling some of the numbers, and it's sometimes hard to get the numbers, but just to give our listeners an idea of how significant this issue is, there have been, in 2020, we were able to look at the estimates of the child abuse referrals for child abuse and neglect that were received. And there were 32,000 referrals. That's unbelievable. And out of that, Richard, there were 24,000 that were then referred for investigation. And then it turned out there were about 8,100 child abuse victims. Again, how horrific. And then when we peeled it down, you know, we then continued to see that of those 8,100 children, there were 7,100 that were first-time victims. Oh, my goodness, it's such a problem. I mean, again, these children, no matter whatever age they are, what they have been going through, the abuse, the neglect. So it's on all of us to look about how we can make a change, how we can stand united with our wonderful facilities, with our partners, what we can all do together. In the Attorney General's office, you're absolutely right, Richard. We see this way more than we'd like to see these victims, these children's victims. I have an incredibly experienced team of investigators, of prosecutors, of professional staff, and we're working every day with law enforcement. We're working to make a difference, to really go after these predators, to go in and rescue these children. It's just unbelievable.
And General Fitch, the sad part of this is when you lay those numbers out, the numbers that go unreported or not uninvestigated. I mean, I know there's an investigation process when things, but I'm talking about children who don't either have the ability or the courage to be able to step forward because they're afraid of what might happen to them. It's scary to think how many of those we might not know about.
Well, you're absolutely right. There are so many children we know that fall through the cracks, and we lose that opportunity to go in to help them. One of the things we do in the Attorney General's office, which is so significant to try to, again, find these children, to figure out what's going on with them, we run the ICAC task force. So that is the Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force. So what we're doing, we're leading this task force comprised of a number of our partners, and we're doing the child exploitation investigation. And it's horrific. We are finding victims all the time. So even when they can't report or someone doesn't hear, then at least we're able to try to find these children through our task force. Just to give you an idea, and we're so excited that people are stepping up, giving us these task force, through the task force, these cyber tips, just through this first of the year, through the beginning of January through the end of February, we've received over 724 cyber tips. And that's important because that gave us the opportunity to go and look behind the hood, figure out where these children, where are they? And so many times it's actually happening live here in Mississippi. And then we do operations. We do multi-jurisdictional operations with our law enforcement partners. Again, so sad that there are these predators out there. We did one recently in March, and we called it the Operation Pressure Luck. And it led to 3 arrests of predators who thought they were going to meet children for sex. Again, this is so alarming for all of us.
Well, and I'm glad you brought the online piece of this up because I feel like, one of the disappointing things about this when we talk about child abuse, whether it's physical or sexual or mental or emotional, whatever it is, I'm not sure that it takes traditional forms. I mean, clearly it does. You have, parents or whatever who are abusive. That the reality is there and there's services that are there. But this online piece of it, and it's all kind of interconnected when you think about sex trafficking and cyberbullying and trying to bait children into situations like you just discussed a second ago. That's kind of what makes this so complicated, I would think, from your standpoint, is it's like, where do you even start? Because there's evil everywhere you turn, and so much of it is based online now.
You're right. I mean, this online has become such an issue, for our children because, again, they're out there on these platforms. They're being taken advantage of on so many different levels. And so that's what I'm saying. It really takes all of us to step up, to help, to look. Parents, if you see something, or if you're a neighbor, or if you're someone in a school and you see a child that might be in these abusive, neglected situations, or might be suffering through this social online media bullying or any other issue, that's when we need these tips. We need to be able to go further. And I think sometimes people have been very hesitant, Richard, but we want people to really step up. Like I said, just give me the tip numbers that we've gotten in the last couple of months. That means people are willing now to come forward and say, hey, I think I saw something. Because when you do, and I encourage all of our listeners to do this, when you do, you might be saving a life. You might be helping that child out of that situation, and no one would have recognized it except that individual who then gave us the tip.
Yeah. If I guess this was something that Homeland Security used years ago when they said, if you see something, say something. And I think great advice here as well. I want to switch gears on you and just ask you, not from a legal opinion standpoint, but from somebody with a legal background, what is the prism through which you will watch the proceedings that are going to happen with former President Trump in Manhattan today? As somebody who deals in the law and I hope deals in reality, as opposed to the way some people are looking at this, what are you looking to see in that story?
Well, I tell you, it's a very sad day today to see the rule of law be disintegrated today. But it's not only inappropriate, but it's absolutely unethical, to see this prosecutorial authority that's being used to play politics. We just haven't seen this, and this is going to the extremities.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. But I agree with you. I think sad's the right word because it's in a lot of ways a mockery of our democracy, and that is a difficult pill to swallow. General Fitch, we've got about a minute left. Give us an update of kind of what's on your desk right now in terms of priorities. What is at the top of the list over the next couple of months for you?
Absolutely. Well, we've had a lot of great things that have certainly been happening in the Attorney General's office. We're coming off a session. We're very grateful for the work that we've been able to have and the success on a number of bills that will be so important across our state. And again, as we work with our child advocacy centers, that's so important. As we work with our CPS for these children, we must keep that key. So there are a number of family and children issues that came out through the session, which we're excited about.
Yeah.
One of them is called the MAMA program, and that's the Mississippi Access to Maternal Assistance. And Richard, it's going to be great. It's going to be a website, an app, so everyone can go on and you can click on where you live as a young mother or a young pregnant mother, and you can see all the public, private resources that are right there in that county. I think that's going to be so helpful as we help our families and we create a better environment. And, again, if many of these young mothers, they're in a very disruptive situation themselves. They might be in an abusive relationship or lack of support or whatever. And to know that there are resources, there are people out there that care about them, that care about their children.
The Mama Program. I like that very much. Attorney General Lynn Fitch, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you again for highlighting and showcasing to everyone to please be cautious. Please understand that these children are being abused and neglected and that we all have to stand together to save them.
Thank you for your time. That's Attorney General Lynn